Okay, on 75, he's been out in the ocean for a while, and he starts to philosophize and get all hippie-ish. He says, imagine if each day a man must try to kill the moon, he thought. The moon runs away, but imagine if a man each day should have to try and kill the sun. We were born lucky, he thought. Why were we born lucky? Right, but what does the moon do? What does he say in here? The moon runs away. But imagine each day having to kill the sun. What does the sun do? In the morning? Right. The moon runs away, the sun rises to meet us. Look at the bottom of 75. He says, I do not understand these things, he thought, but it is good that we do not have to try to kill the sun or the moon or the stars. It is enough to live on the sea and kill our true brothers. He is tired, and he's starting to think about life and the moon and the stars, and he's starting to get all hippie. And so he stops. Like, I don't understand these things. It's not important. What's important is the task at hand. And we'll see him kind of wax and wane in and out of these deep philosophical kind of questions, and then getting back to the reality of the situation. I think it was this class. Did I talk to you guys about why farming and cultivation was one of the worst things that happened to us as a system? If we never learned how to farm, if we still spent all day trying to gather our food, prepare our food, and live off the land, do you think we would have many people going to the psychologist or psychiatrist or complaining about who they are?
You'd be too busy.
Right.
Well, people didn't kill each other. So.
I did talk about this with Benitha. Benitha doesn't know who she is, right? In Raising the Sun, she's constantly changing her identity. She's constantly searching to find her inner self and all this crap. Now, that's a relatively new thing for human beings, considering how long human beings have been on this earth. All of these psychological disorders that are, every single day there's a new psychological disorder that is being discussed and being discovered, and didn't have it for a really, really long time because we didn't have time to sit on our butts and think about things that maybe don't. Given the opportunity to overthink things, won't most people overthink things? That's probably why we didn't. There wasn't that much problems whenever people spent the majority of their day living off the land, right, and living day to day, taking care of things. But we learned how to. It all started with farming. Right, once we learned how to grow our own food and we didn't have to work all day, every day, we could start sitting around and thinking about things. We've been able to find more and more ways to do less and less work and sit around and think more and more and more.
It's all the still medicines,
Right.
Do you think that because we don't have a simple life, that's why there are psychological disorders?
No. I'm not saying this. This is Hemingway. Don't misunderstand. Don't misconstrue the two. This is a case where Hemingway is saying that if you sit around and try to overthink things as opposed to taking care of what needs to be taken care of, you'll get off in some trippy, spacey land that you don't need to be in. And speaking historically, there is the argument that cultivation, that farming, kick-started all of this. There was no art before farming. There was no community before farming. Right? Once we were able to grow our own food and stop spending all day trying to gather our food and survive, the time that we spent sitting around, we spent trying to think of more ways to do less work.
So once you have idle time, you lose your sense of purpose. You sit there and think about, what do I have to do now?
Yeah, well, maybe not sense of purpose, because a lot of that time was spent trying to find out ways of doing even less work, right? But once there's no work to be done, that's whenever, like in the 18th century, there's this disease that swept, this psychological disease that swept the upper class all across Europe. It was called ennui. I had to read a book about it. And it was basically about the upper class of Europe, that they were all depressed. They had all the money in the world. They didn't have to cook. They didn't have to clean. They had to do nothing but simply exist. And they all hated themselves, and they all hated their lives. And they were jealous of the people that worked in their house, and they were jealous of the peasants that lived on the land. Why?
They had a sense of purpose.
Because they did things, right?
Yeah, we talked about that in our appreciation. There was like a study at a college. People that make like 60 grand or less a year are like twice as happy as anybody who makes like 100 grand or more.
Purpose. Having something to do. If you don't have anything to do, then, again, like, we are made to do something, right? This is what the kind of Hemingway's touching on this here, that he shouldn't be thinking about these things, especially at this moment, because there are other things that need to be done, right? There's matters to attend to. He says that he feels sorry for the great fish. How many people will he feed, he thought, but are they worthy to eat him? No, of course not. There is no one worthy of eating him, from the manner of his behavior and his great dignity. This is important because he doesn't... The old man's kind of caught here because that's what he does for a living. But he has such great respect for this fish that he doesn't want these tourists coming in and eating him, because they don't know what kind of fish the fish is. And Hemingway, this would be a big deal for Hemingway anyway, because he was a big hunter. He was a big gamesman, right? Like going hunting and killing your own food and appreciating where it came from and appreciating the creature. We don't do that anymore. Most people don't do that. I was forced to watch a really, really horrible movie called Leap Year with Amy Adams. What, she makes you watch it too?
Oh, yeah. Terrible.
I don't know.
It's so heartbreaking that she was doing that to her man. To me, I don't know. Kayla was like, "Oh, that's so sweet. She's cheating on her future husband." It's awesome.
I don't know, that was awesome.
I thought you were going to say that it was so awful that she would do that to you, make you watch it. I would agree with you on that one. Anyway, so Irish, like this New York prissy girl goes to Ireland, and this Irish backwoods, whatever, they meet, and they're at this bed and breakfast, and they're going to prepare Irish stew. The Irish guy goes and gets a chicken, and he's holding it in his arms, and he's talking to the girl, and he, out of nowhere, just breaks the chicken's neck to prepare it for stew. And it really upsets the girl. And so they're having a conversation about it later, and she asks him, or he asks her, well, are you a vegetarian? Well, no. Well, where do you think chickens come from? And she's, supposed to be funny or whatever, it's like the frozen food aisle, which is not a funny joke, but people tend to think that, right? I mean, now, most people, a lot of people don't really tend to see their food as being once a living, breathing creature, and understanding that the process. And the old man here is thinking about that, and the tourist going to eat his fish, his work, and show no appreciation for it or to it. And this is something that anybody can relate to. I mean, any job that you've ever done that someone else will, they'll either use something that you've made, or they will work on something that you've worked on and have no appreciation for what goes into it whatsoever. And that's what the old man's dealing with, and that's something that most people have to deal with at some point in their life, and just kind of get and reconcile the two, right? Because that's how he makes his money. is killing these fish for people that don't understand what goes into it to stuff their faces with. Okay. Let me see, last thing I wanted to say. On 80, he talks about not having salt or limes. He says, still it was a lack of preparation. This is another flaw. Because what did he say earlier about preparation and luck?
There's no luck, there's just,
Just better to be prepared. Right. That way when luck comes, you were ready or whatever. But he's not prepared. The old man, and in the sections that we just covered, the old man has shown weakness, shown his selfishness, lack of preparation, and loss of focus. But yet, Hemingway writes this old man as someone to aspire to. This is how man should be. So why does he do that?
To show he's human.
Exactly. Because he's a human being. All right, we need something to... Again, I've talked about this before, that whole celebrity culture and stuff, and not seeing them as human beings. A human being is a human being because they make mistakes. If this old man was perfect, then he wouldn't be a human being. Okay, good. It was good we only got 5 minutes left because, man, I could go off. I went off on the Twilight stuff, right? Again, same problem. Because that Bella character, does she have a flaw?
The fact that she is completely annoying, yeah, that's a flaw.
Why is she annoying though?
Because she's spoiled and
She's perfect. She's annoying because she's perfect.
I don't think
Yeah.
she's very hot. Really? I mean, I don't think she's a very good-looking girl. I mean, I would pick like someone way hotter to play that role.
Again, too, in the movie, right? In the book, in the book, right? She's beautiful, and when she becomes a vampire, she becomes ungodly beautiful. That's well, obviously they'll never be able to find someone like that in real life because that's going to fall short on the screen. But in the book, she's annoying because she's perfect, and she's not a human being. She's not a human being before she becomes a vampire. Then when she becomes a vampire, she becomes some kind of goddess, right? What is the vampire curse, right? Is that they're bloodthirsty, right? And they go ravenous around human scent. Does she really struggle with that? No. She has no flaws. Besides poor taste in men, but not even men, right? She doesn't have she doesn't even like men. She likes vampires and werewolves. Yeah. And zombies. Well, vampires, they're both undead, or living dead, whatever. So, it's not relatable, and it's so frustrating because Bella is this perfect girl,
I don't agree that she's perfect.
written as a perfect girl, and the book doesn't have explicit flaws like this, like a real person has flaws. And that's the difference between this and anything, not just anything that a character is perfect, right? Or the flaws that they do have are so minor that we misconstrue them as quirky or as cute or as little whatever. It's important that the characters be real, and it's important that